Measurement Unit, Section 5, Reading a Micrometer. A micrometer is a measurement device incorporating a calibrated screw used widely for precise measurement of small distances in mechanical engineering and machining, as well as most mechanical trades. To learn to read the micrometer, you need to understand the thimble and the sleeve, or barrel. Here, we are going to learn to read the micrometer by figuring out the markings on the thimble and the sleeve. The sleeve or barrel does not move. It looks like a ruler with 10 numbers, and it represents 1 inch. We take that 1 inch, the entire span on the barrel or sleeve, and divide it by the 10 intervals to represent 1/10 of an inch. As you can see, the whole numbers in reality represent tenths of an inch. Furthermore, we can divide each of these intervals into quarters, and if we divide 1/10 of an inch by 4, we end up with 25 thousandths of an inch. Analogous to reading a micrometer, you can think of these markings on the sleeves or the barrel as dollars and quarters. We need 4 quarters to equal $1, another 4 quarters, $2, where the quarters are the 25 thousandths of an inch, and when we have 4 of them, we're up to the 10th of an inch that's represented by the scale on a micrometer. Let's take a look. As I said, the sleeve or barrel doesn't move. The thimble is showing a reading here of only these hash marks available, which will be equal to the length of what we're measuring. And if we read on here, each one of the spaces is the 25 thousandths of an inch. When we get 4 of those, we're up to a 10th of an inch, and so on down the scale. So let's do an actual reading. This is what's visible after we've adjusted the thimble for a measurement, and our exposed last hash mark is here. If we use our dollar and cent analogy, we're at $2.2550. Translating that, we have 2/10 of an inch and 2 25 thousandths, which add up to be 50 thousandths of an inch. So the entire reading, when we combine those two, ends up being 250 thousandths of an inch. In this example, here after adjusting the micrometer and the thimble rotation, we are only seeing these hash marks, which means this would be the length of the object that we're measuring. We have $4.25. Translating that into our scale for our English micrometer, the 4 represents 4/10 of an inch, and the small division is 25 thousandths of an inch. Adding those together, we have a length of 425 thousandths of an inch. If you think of the lines on the sleeve as dollars and cents, the lines on the thimble represent pennies. Each one of these tick marks or divisions represents a thousandth of an inch, and that will be our last reading when we're looking for an exact measurement of something. And here's how it looks. On our sleeve, after we've tightened down the micrometer, we have a total of 3 whole numbers and 1 hash mark beyond the reading. So we have $3.25. And reading across on our horizontal line, we read on the thimble that we are at 1 hash mark above the 0. That's our cents. Translating that reading, the $3 is 3/10 of an inch, the quarter is 25 thousandths, and our reading of just 1 penny on the thimble, we're On up would be more pennies, represents a thousandth of an inch. Adding those three measurements together, we have a reading of this item, 326 thousandths of an inch.